Riverdale on the Hudson, March 17, 1903. Dear Helen, I must steal half a moment from my work to say how glad I am to have your book, and how highly I value it, both for its own sake and as a remembrance of an affectionate friendship which has subsisted between us for 9 years without a break, and without a single act of violence that I can call to mind. I suppose there is nothing like it in heaven, and not likely to be, until we get there and show off. I often think of it with longing, and how they'll say, "There they come. Sit down in front." I am practicing with a tin halo. You do the same. I was at Henry Rogers's last night, and of course we talked of you. He is not at all well. You will not like to hear that, but like you and me, he is just as lovely as ever. I am charmed with your book, enchanted. You are a wonderful creature, the most wonderful in the world. You and your other half together, Miss Sullivan, I mean, for it took the pair of you to make a complete and perfect whole. How she stands out in her letters, her brilliancy, penetration, originality, wisdom, character, and the fine literary competencies of her pen. They are all there. Oh, dear me, how unspeakably funny and owlishly idiotic and grotesque was that plagiarism farce, as if there was much of anything in any human utterance, oral or written, except plagiarism, the kernel, the soul. Let us go further and say the substance, the bulk, the actual and valuable material of all human utterances is plagiarism. For substantially all ideas are second-hand, consciously and unconsciously drawn from 1,000,000 outside sources, and daily used by the garnerer with a pride and satisfaction born of the superstition that he originated them, whereas there is not a rag of originality about them anywhere, except the little discoloration they get from his mental and moral caliber and his temperament, and which is revealed in characteristics of phrasing. When a great orator makes a great speech, you are listening to 10 centuries and 10,000 men. But we call it his speech, and really some exceedingly small portion of it is his, but not enough to signify. It is merely a Waterloo. It is Wellington's battle in some degree, and we call it his. But there are others that contributed. It takes 1,000 men to invent a telegraph, or a steam engine, or a phonograph, or a photograph, or telephone, or any other important thing. And the last man gets the credit, and we forget the others. He added his little mite, that is all he did. These object lessons should teach us that 99 parts of all things that proceed from the intellect are plagiarisms, pure and simple. And the lesson ought to make us modest. But nothing can do that. then why don't we unwittingly reproduce the phrasing of a story as well as the story itself? It can hardly happen to the extent of 50 words, except in the case of a child. Its memory tablet is not lumbered with impressions, and the actual language can have graven room there and preserve the language a year or two. But a grown person's memory tablet is a palimpsest, with hardly a bare space upon which to engrave a phrase. It must be a very rare thing that a whole page gets so sharply printed upon a man's mind by a single reading that it will stay long enough to turn up some time or other and be mistaken by him for his own. No doubt we are constantly littering our literature with disconnected sentences borrowed from books at some unremembered time and now imagined to be our own. But that is about the most we can do. In 1866, I read Dr. Holmes's poems in the Sandwich Islands. A year and a half later, I stole his dictation without knowing it, and used it to dedicate my Innocents Abroad with. Then, years afterwards, I was talking with Dr. Holmes about it. He was not an ignorant ass. No, not he. He was not a collection of decayed human turnips, like your plagiarism court. And so, when I said, "I know now where I stole it, but whom did you steal it from?" he said, "I don't remember. I only know I stole it from somebody, because I have never originated anything altogether myself, nor met anybody who had." To think of those solemn donkeys breaking a little child's heart with their ignorant rubbish about plagiarism. I couldn't sleep for blaspheming about it last night. Why, their whole lives, their whole histories, all their learning, all their thoughts, all their opinions were one solid ruck of plagiarism, and they didn't know it and never suspected it. A gang of dull and hoary pirates piously setting themselves the task of disciplining and purifying a kitten that they think they've caught filching a chop. Oh, damn. But you finish it, dear. I am running short of vocabulary today. Ever lovingly your friend, Mark.